It's Lamarcus on the beat.
Hey, yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to Thinkers Anonymous. You here with your boy EIG. And here on Thinkers Anonymous, it's just a space where we talk about things that we all may think about, but maybe, we can't say it. Maybe we don't have someone to say it to. Maybe we don't have the tools to say it. But either way, here I just want a safe space for us to be able to just delve into some things and hopefully it can help somebody. So today's episode is just on relationships. And, whatever kind of relationship that is, but, mainly those of the romantic type, who you dealing with, who you dating, how's the marriage, all those kind of things. But what we did was we Googled just, some of the top questions that couples ask therapists. And by the way, I support therapy. Hey, if it's rough, get you some therapy. I'm not knocking church and everything else that you do, but if you got an opportunity to get therapy, get it. Trust me, that's a good thing. But anyway, so the questions that we asked, or the questions that they gave us, should I say? First one is this normal or are we broken? Mm, you know, I know some of us have been there, have had to been there where we like, man, am I the only one going through this? And it's funny that in those moments we want to know, are we the only ones? And we want to know, is it normal? Because we're trying to hold it up to something, isn't it? It's funny how once we find out somebody else is going through it, we feel better. You ever was going through something, you read an article or saw something in the news or somebody else said this and you felt better about the situation and you maybe not even got any solutions for it. You might have never even got anywhere, any progress in it. But just to know that somebody else deals with that same thing, that you're not the only one, it feels good. Now, I feel like that is because we keep comparison around. That comparison is at the root of that. If I'm not looking at anybody else or what anybody else is doing, if I'm staying in my lane, staying in our lane, how does it help me and make me feel good that I'm not the only one that has to endure it? It's because we want to look and make sure, you know what I mean? And we look and we want to stay, you know, we want to stay with the crowd. We want to, and that's easy to do with everything in social media that's going on, right? People posting all kind of pics and moments and vacations, and nothing's wrong with that. Seriously. But the comparison is what makes us want to know, is this normal? Because what if it's not normal? Then what? What does it change or heal about whatever you're dealing with or going through? So that question there, I would really speak to that. You know, I really speak to us just dealing with comparison. Don't try to be any other couple. I don't care. TV, friends, you are you. There's no other one like you. You're the only one. And no relationship is going to be the same. A lot of things we share in common and do, through just, hey, being in this culture. But hey, the comparison has to stop for that question to not be a thing. That's just how I feel. Next question says, why do we keep having the same fight? Ooh, the same fight. Nothing's changing. I know we all have been there. Hey, look, when you're in a relationship, a lot of the times what you're into it about, it's not a one-time thing. It's usually on repeat. And I mean heavy. But we really do have to ask ourselves, like, well, why is that? Right? Why are we having the same arguments, same fight, different day? Because we got to get to the core of that to really for something to change. I mean, if nothing's going to change and I feel miserable in that, then hey, we have to have a solution. Because if we don't, somebody's going to explode one day. One day it's going to get out of control. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't need that. I don't think we any of us really need that in our lives. Let life be good to you. Let life be smooth. It says common causes are unresolved emotional needs, surface solutions to deep problems, and avoiding the real issue. Mm. Yeah, definitely we feel that our emotional needs aren't met. But I would go there with caution, y'all, because the truth be told, nobody can meet your emotional needs. Now, I know you're like, what? Yeah, that sounds crazy. Now, yeah, on the surface level in a relationship, yes, hey, there are emotional needs that need to be met. But if we're having the same fight, something's going on over and over and over again. What's our solution there? Dependent waiting on them to deal with me emotionally, right? So you're saying my happiness has to wait on how that person evolves and grows on their journey and their life? No. I would advise you to deal with yourself. There's some self-work that's got to be done. And all this will tie back to that. You know, in all relationships, hey, at the end of the day, remember this is that the work that's got to be done, it's on you. It is all on you. Now, we've been tricked into thinking it's the other person or that we've got to fix something about that person. But the real work is with you and with you only. But hey, we'll come back to that on a deeper level at another time. So, avoiding unresolved emotional needs. Yeah, really, there's some communicating that really isn't, it's not clicking. Communication. Seems like in almost every relationship, that's the barrier, huh? The communication. What I heard and what you said. Mm. Another question says, why don't I feel heard? Anybody feel invisible in your relationship? And I'm sure that, that be the case with definitely a lot of women. And that's no judgment. But hey, feeling seen, feeling heard is great to have in that relationship. And you would want that for your partner. Let's be real. Yeah. For somebody to feel like I don't even have I don't have a say in any of this. Or they're saying some things that are not getting through to us. Man, that's a tough spot to be in. Wrong or right, wherever we are in that relationship, that's a tough spot to be in. And we have to at least be compassionate enough to look at that. If that person that you're with, they should be your friend. They should be the closest of your friends. And you would want that. So we've got to keep the me versus you out of relationships. Because if we're on the same team, there's some things I don't want for you just out of my care, just out of my love for you, even if it's pertaining to me. Mm. It says one partner is speaking facts and the other is expressing feelings. And that's true. A lot of the times, in most cases, not all, but in a lot of the cases, the women are expressing feelings and the men are speaking from a factual point. And we're just missing each other. We're missing each other because there is no common ground. I think there's a place for both of those. But it's the job of both of you to find that same frequency to be on, where there's no push, no pull. That place is a beautiful space to get in and to get to, because in that space, that's where a lot of problems solve themselves. But we can get back to that. I got to keep it moving for y'all. I got to keep it moving. Another question says, why does everything turn into an argument? Woo! That's a common one. Why does everything have to turn into an argument? You ever been in those relationships where you're having a good time? I mean, it could be a great day. I'm talking about, laughs and affection. And then one small thing happened and it turned into an argument. I'm talking about y'all could be sitting in the drive-thru and all of a sudden, nobody talking, nobody saying a word on the way home. Anybody been there? And we don't feel whenever that's the case, somebody doesn't feel safe. They don't feel safe enough to talk. That's how they feel. Like talking is trouble. And talking is the way we communicate. And if that's how we communicating, and I don't feel safe to talk, man, that's a double whammy. You're feeling at a disadvantage. Whomever that is, the man, woman, whatever side, it doesn't matter. But to not feel safe, that ain't a good thing. And as far as men go, I can speak from a man's standpoint. We need to make it safer. We should make it safer for women by watching even our tone. Because our tone can be aggressive. And we may be just speaking facts. Maybe something needed to be said. But the tone, make it safe, because it's especially in times of argument. I'm not just talking everyday tone talking, just making, and we should mind that as well. But in those moments where we know things are rough, where we know we're in that argument, we all know. If you've been in a relationship, you know when it's there. You know when the time is like, all right, here we go. And it's in those moments that we should try to remember the tools that we can use to help us through that. Hey, my tone. Same for women. Watching the tone, because the tone that's automatically going to show some respect for the other person. Even though we're into it, even though we don't agree, me choosing to keep this tone is showing that, hey, all right, it's not just about what we're disagreeing about here. There's some things we're going to remember in the course of this. There's some boundaries we have, So, another question says, do they even love me? Wow. You ever been in that space where you with somebody, but you don't feel that they love you? And that's tough. At that point, you really got to ask yourself, well, if you're not feeling love, if you're having to question it, what is it that is keeping you there? What is your reason for staying? Is it because you want to be you want to have intention with staying, or is it because it's something familiar? Or is it because it's convenient? Maybe walking away isn't the best choice financially, or what, in any facet. And I do think that, hey, you do have to use wisdom according to how your life is. There's some of y'all in some relationships, some of us in some relationships that if we did choose to walk out at that moment, hey, it may turn some things upside down. And that's okay, but it's really just about whether you're equipped enough to handle it and not lose your mind. Are you equipped enough to walk in whatever the results are or the consequences are of you choosing to step out of a relationship that you're not loved in. So if you do have to ask that question, am I loved? First, what's their answer? And most times that'll be a defensive answer, right? Do you even love me? And that response would say a lot. That response shouldn't be one of it just turned into something worse. Because if I love you and I felt that and I knew you informed me that, hey, you don't feel loved, I should want you to feel loved. How don't you feel loved? Tell me how. What am I doing? But a lot of times we don't even get to those questions because we've got to deal with the extra sauce that was put on it, the tone. We got to deal with our own egos taking things certain way and starting to pull up the tally marks. What you did and how you did. Now I'm doing it. Now you don't like it. Phew. Emotional distance. That's rough. Emotional distance. And y'all, usually whenever there is distance in a relationship, that's really not, I know we can talk about it. We can talk about, hey, what's wrong in it? And we can say, well, we're just emotionally distant. But that's just a symptom of something. It's not really the problem. So, you see a child's nose running. The real concern, the true attention shouldn't be on, hey, the nose is running. Because it's a symptom. We need to deal with something at a deeper level to make sure that all things get fixed, so that all things work together, so that the nose stop running, so that I can breathe. There's something else deeper than just distance, because distance isn't there for no reason. But do we care why? And do we care to hear the other partner? Good questions. Why do I feel so lonely in this relationship? Man, it's crazy how you can be in a relationship and feel lonely. Sometimes just through daily, hey, we got jobs. Maybe we run businesses. Maybe we're involved in community things, church, sports, the kids. And there's barely enough time to even be intimate with each other. It's easier than you think to become lonely with somebody that you've been with your whole life. Not your whole life, but, you know, got some time in the game. How is that? I feel that when we get to those moments, those are the times where we should definitely, you have to be intentional with connecting with one another. It's not how big the bouquet of flowers was that I got you, how nice the room was, but how was our state when we were together? Was there a demand on each other? Did I feel bliss just being with you? That's how come it's not about just how much money you got. Those things are nice, Women can be wild with the fancy things, as can men. But in a relationship, you need whatever it needs to be anchored in something deeper, something more than just superficial. So let's be intentional with that. Make time to connect, to really connect. Maybe no phones. Maybe we ain't just gotta watch a movie together and fall asleep, but do some things. Even the smallest of things. But communicating about that. Hey, dedicating that time. Hey, maybe scheduling, you may say, well, I don't want to schedule in my relationship. I don't feel that's authentic. Well, some lives you have to do that to make sure that we keep a hold of it. We keep it together because some of us are busy and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being busy and anchored. So keeping it moving, y'all. Keeping it moving. Can I trust them? Wow. Can I trust them? That's a big question because we always wonder that. If there's anything that shows us somebody that's maybe not honest, maybe shows us that even that they're cheating, and maybe it's not even just cheating, but honesty, accountability for some things. What do we do when we don't know that? When we don't know if we can trust them? We don't know if they're reliable. This points back to self, y'all. If I feel that I can't trust you and the work that's got to be done is within me, then that means I got to look at you differently until you show me that until you show me that you don't want this. It's on me to do the work, to look at whether or not I feel like you're reliable. Because trusting, what if you don't trust someone, then in that relationship, it's always going to be mess. I'm telling you, it's always going to be mess. And we can talk about trust on a deeper level as well, at a later time. But hey, sometimes people feel like it's hard to trust after you've been done wrong. It's hard to trust when you watch someone weasel out of something or try to, and you're sitting there looking and say, hey, are you expecting me to believe this? And we get offended, like you think I'm a fool, and y'all know the patterns. But being able to trust somebody, that's a dangerous goal to try to attain, I think that's something that you shouldn't always keep to be worried about, whether or not I can trust him. Can I trust him? Will he? Someone will show you. They'll show you. People will show you more than what they say. You'll see. It's on you and whether you believe it and whether you want to believe it. So be careful with that because that takes the work off of you, and usually it gets you to putting your partner under the microscope. Let me watch what they're doing. Wow, why you do this? Oh, that was different. And it don't feel good. It don't. Be careful with that one. Why do I get so triggered by small things? Woo. Yeah, we think that it's the small thing that just happened and we just flipped. But again, there's something deeper. We got to get to the problem, not just the symptoms. A lot of old wounds, a lot of old, traumas that go undefined. Or maybe they go and they have the wrong definition in your life. So when you encounter something, it could be very small. It doesn't take much to trigger a certain reaction. So there's some things that we got to go back and redefine. Not saying you got to go back and hurt again and live through. No, we got to face it. You looked at that problem a certain way and you gave it a definition. But clearly it ain't the right one. It's to go back and say, oh, that happened. That had to happen in my life. Oh, this was good for me. This showed me this. I got this data from that mess I was in. We got to watch the narratives. Redefining it can make us look at life differently. That trigger ain't all of a sudden, it's not that trigger anymore. We can talk about that more later too. I'm almost done, y'all. Why do we want different levels of intimacy or sex? And a lot of times someone is really probably scared to just say, hey, do you still want me? Am I still desirable to you? From a man's place. Because, most women don't have, there's usually no problem in them voicing that. Am I desirable to you? Do you even? Men, our pride, ego, sometimes we have to, we've been brought up to be tough. Stop all the crying. All that. They say stress, they say exhaustion. Mismatched desire cycles. Why do we want different levels of intimacy or sex? Well, we're different people. And there's some things that have got to be accepted about each other. And I mean truly accepted. And it don't mean that you agree with it, or doesn't mean that that's what you want. But once you truly accept it for that it is what it is, and accepting it meaning that, hey, you're not in resistance to it. You're not here to start drama with something that's already done and something that is, and something that you have no control over. You create the freedom. You create a freedom, a level of growth and maturity from just, hey, it ain't all about me. Another one says, should we stay together or separate? Well, we talked about that earlier. Should you? Are you scared? Is it dangerous? There's some scenarios that people are in that, hey, you have to be smart because you may be in a dangerous situation. But a lot of those are, a lot of the times, these are the ones that we're there out of familiarity. We're there because we don't want to upset some people. Or we want to leave because we're not mature enough to do the work that has to happen. On and on and on and on. But I do want to say this before we get out of here, y'all. It all boils back to you. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you're hurting. It's a hard pill to swallow when you know, hey, you were, quote, right. And maybe you are. But truthfully, does that part really even matter? To not suffer anymore, it can't matter. And I just want to say to you here, Thinkers Anonymous, I pray that we all have the courage and the will to look inward in all situations. It grows your character, it grows you in ways, and it makes your vision so much clearer. Days are so much more beautiful, and you can be so much more of who you are. So we scratched the surface just about questions today, but we can dive deep into things that we can do, things that we can practice to help change some things we won't change in our life regarding our relationships. So next time that we're together, let's touch back on it. Let's see where we're taking it to. What next level are we going to? And I really just hope that these things make a space, that these questions help us all, me, you, help us all, because we're all connected. It's no you, it's no me, no me, no you. So until next time, I love y'all. Peace.